We're talking cornerback prospects today, and luckily, my co-host, a former cornerback himself, coaches cornerbacks. He knows corners better than anybody who could be talking about 49ers prospects at the cornerback position on today's Locked On 49ers.
You are Locked On 49ers, your daily San Francisco 49ers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On 49ers. Brian Peacock and Eric Crocker. Thanks for tuning in and making us your first listen of the day here on the Locked On Podcast Network. And thanks for making Locked On the number one sports podcast network. We got some prospects from round 2 through round 4 into day 3. I don't know where some of these guys are going to go. Maybe Croc has a better idea. Chris Johnson, San Diego State. We got a pair of long, tall, 6'3" corners from Washington and a local Cal cornerback, Hezekiah Masses, as well, breaking these guys down. Are they fits for the San Francisco 49ers in various rounds throughout the middle of the NFL draft? Thanks, everybody, for tuning in and making us your first listen. Thanks to FanDuel for sponsoring today's podcast. FanDuel is giving you a way to turn that March energy into even bigger potential wins with a college basketball parlay profit boost. Head to FanDuel.com to get started. Let's start at the top. We're going to go with the consensus rankings of these guys. So we're going to start with Chris Johnson, not CJ2K. So some narrow cornerbacks on today's program, Croc, but athletic cornerbacks. Let's start with Chris Johnson, who is a big-time talent, I think, out of San Diego State. He's been a very common player that folks have asked us to break down here on Locked On 49ers, maybe a potential second-round pick. I don't think he's going to last to round 4. I don't think he's a first-round guy, Croc. So we're talking about pick 58 and maybe 58 only for Chris Johnson out of San Diego State, 6 feet, 193 pounds. What did you see when you put on the San Diego State tape, Croc? Because I'm going to lean on you in this episode. I'm going to take a step back here today.
Well, you guys know I really like to do my comparisons and kind of paint a picture for our audience so they kind of understand a little bit of what it looks like. All right. I'll say what he is, and then I'll say what I'm seeing on film, and then I will ask you. No matter of fact, I'm gonna ask you right now. He reminds me of a 49er player. I try to stick to 49er players because 49ers fans know exactly what that looks like.
Yeah, trying to paint a picture for the audio listeners that aren't even looking at us and maybe aren't watching film alongside when we're breaking down these prospects, trying to paint a picture of how a guy moves, how a guy looks, how a guy plays, right?
Right. So I believe that, and again, we're talking about him as a prospect, a boundary corner, likes to play from press alignment. He can press bail and read concepts from there. 6 feet tall, 191 to 93 pounds. I mean, they're in the right range from a trait standpoint. This guy ran, I believe, at his pro day in the 4.3s. I don't think at this time, because of something going on, COVID, I don't think they had the combine that year. But built wise, movement skill wise, strengths wise, they are pretty identical. Can you tell me what corner that is?
Well, I'm trying to think of a guy who's athletic and narrow from that era, and I got to come up with Emmanuel Moseley, who was one of your favorites, Croc, if I'm not mistaken. Is that your guy?
No, but okay. I did love Emmanuel Moseley. Identified him right away. That was one of my early calls when the 49ers, they signed McFadden.
Yes.
Tavares McFadden, and they signed Emmanuel Moseley. And I was telling people, like, I know McFadden had that 1 year, he had 8 interceptions, but this Moseley guy, he's better. I like him more. And he was awesome for the 49ers once he got his opportunity. No, Ambry Thomas. Okay. Ambry Thomas. I know everybody look kind of jaded a little bit, and there's another name I'm going to bring up later, and people are going to be like, huh? But if you look at Ambry Thomas from a prospect standpoint, Ambry Thomas was a legit corner at Michigan when playing at the line of scrimmage. He read zone concepts from there. He was able to play man coverage from there. I remember watching him in off coverage and being like, a little choppy for me in off coverage. Not my favorite guy. Then he gets to the NFL, and the 49ers are like, hey, we know your strength was press and working at the line of scrimmage, and that was what you did, and reading zone concepts from the line of scrimmage. But we're gonna have you play off coverage all the time, and I just don't think that works for him.
This is what's happening with Renardo Green right now, right?
Yeah, essentially, very similar, right? Where it's like, hey, this was a strength of mine. I can get in guys' face all game, but you guys want me to play off, and that's kind of opposite of what I did in college. That's opposite of what made me really good. And I thought Ambry Thomas was a good press man guy in college. Got to the NFL, hey, play off coverage. When I watched Johnson, I believe that he has the ability to play off. I don't think it's as choppy as Ambry Thomas. He does a good job to sinking into zones, reading his zone concepts from there, knowing when to squeeze, when something goes away. He does a good job of that. But clearly his strength, boundary corner, press guy at the line of scrimmage, reading zone from there, can run vertical with guys. Those were the strengths that I saw. So I know you're going to lean on me more on this episode, but does that align with some of the things that you're seeing?
Yeah, I loved him at the line of scrimmage. Loved his feet at the line of scrimmage, mirroring wide receivers.
Patience, stayed square. It was good.
Patience. I saw that from another corner that we're going to talk about here as well. 4.4 flat as well, Croc. So he meets a height, weight, speed kind of standard as well in this area of the draft. We were talking about a second round pick, 6 feet even, 193 pounds. 4.4 flat, 40-yard dash, 1.54 in the 10-yard split, which is among the fastest of all the cornerbacks in the entire class. I'm looking for somebody who's faster in the first 10 yards, and I'm seeing Malik Muhammad from Texas, and let's see, Robert Spears Jennings, who I've not watched at all. He ran a 4.32 though, so that's what we're talking about, the kind of speed here. Another guy was Dylan Thieneman. He was 1.52 and he ran a 4.35. So of all the defensive backs, there's like 3 guys that had a faster 10-yard split than Chris Johnson, and they were 4.3 guys. So that tells you how good he is in a short area. And I loved seeing how balanced he was, how confident he was, and how smooth he was in his back pedal, and just impatient up against the line of scrimmage, in press coverage against wide receivers here. I'm trying to look at the rest of his numbers and see if he ran the agilities. He did not run the agilities. So good straight line speed, not the thickest guy in the world, but if you're going to play for the 49ers, you're probably going to play a lot of cover 3 and you're going to play some off coverage, right, Croc? So of the off coverage reps, you thinking maybe that's not his strength, or at least maybe he hasn't played enough of it to feel comfortable doing it.
Don't think that it was just something he was asked a lot of.
Yeah.
So again, my thing is I'm big on drafting guys to do what they did well in college, right? Like I'm not going to say, all right, we got Brock Purdy. All right, hey, we're going to run read option a ton. And it's like,
right.
Bro, that's not what I did. That's not what made me good. That's not why you guys drafted me. So if I'm the 49ers and we're like, hey, we want to, kind of shift our defense a little bit. You got to run zone, but okay, we're going to run zone. Let him play zone from the line of scrimmage. That's clearly a strength of his. And that's what I was complaining about when it came to Ambry Thomas. Ambry Thomas, man, let him play zone coverage from the line of scrimmage and press bill. I remember Coach Dennis Thurman told me that. Dennis Thurman was like, Croc, you can press bill in any zone. It's, sky cover 3 where you have to be off the entire time. But if it's a fire zone 3, if it's cover 4 quarters, as long as you're reading your keys, you can be at the line of scrimmage and bail and open up to where you have vision. And that's how I would play him.
Overall, what's your evaluation? What kind of a grade would you put on Chris Johnson? Would you put a second round grade on him? Would you talk about him early in the second round? I've seen people thinking maybe he could sneak into the first round. I've seen him in round 3. I've really seen him all over the place, to be honest with you.
I think I would be, his traits and skills say, hey, I'm going to go higher, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like second round, maybe even first, late first, maybe, especially if he was doing it maybe even on a bigger scale and not at San Diego. But I thought his film was pretty clean. Gave up a 50-50 ball to Cal down the left sideline. But he was right there in phase and fighting through the hands and made it a very difficult catch for the receiver. So he was consistently challenging guys. And I really like that. There was a somewhat of a physical element to his game when coming up to make tackles. Not something that like truly stood out, but I saw he was willing to get a little dirty. I'm curious to see where the NFL has him, but the fact that I'm still a little questionable with his off coverage makes me kind of drop him just a little bit. And when I say off coverage, just pure ability to play, because quarters coverage is almost like man. Essentially, it turns into man. It's only a zone coverage for like the first 6-7 yards for real. After that, it turns into man. I have to match and run with this guy. And the NFL is running a lot of quarters. 49ers run a lot of quarters coverage. So if you're going to run a lot of quarters and that's not quite his strength, it's tough. But he has the ability to do it. I didn't think he had choppy feet. I didn't think that he couldn't turn and run. It's just it didn't look as smooth or as elegant for him when he did it. So it's just a question for me.
More cornerbacks. Are they a fit for the San Francisco 49ers in maybe the mid rounds with one of those 4th round picks? A pair of long, tall corners from the University of Washington and a Cal corner who's very interesting as well. Next. Today's episode of Locked On 49ers is brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. Welcome to the 5 Hour Energy Flavor Draft with 18 flavors to choose from, including new options like Confetti Craze, Fruity Rainbow, and Cotton Candy. There's something for everyone. The board is set. The flavors are ready. And I've got my number 1 pick. Croc does too for the 5 Hour Energy Flavor Draft. I'm going with, and if you listen to this show, you know that my choice is pomegranate. We're talking deep, slightly tart pomegranate flavor, more sophisticated, less candy-like. I'm a sophisticated guy. Croc is more about the tropical burst flavor, and there's tons of new flavors as well as mentioned. So go check them all out. 5 Hour Energy shots give you a boost with 0 sugar, and tons of flavor innovations are planned as well. So find your new flavor of 5 Hour Energy shots available online at 5hourenergy.com. That's 5hourenergy.com, or you can find them on Amazon as well. 5 Hour Energy. This episode is also brought to you by FanDuel. College basketball, it's not stopped this month. Big games, tight spreads, momentum swings every single night. If you're watching us live, you might have a game going on a separate TV as well right now as we speak, from early tip-offs to late night West Coast shootouts. There's always action on the board, and now FanDuel is giving you a way to turn that energy into even bigger wins with a college basketball parlay profit boost. You can build any college hoops parlay you want, rivalry games, ranked matchups, whatever fits your read of the situation. You can mix spreads, totals, player props to match how you see the slate playing out any given day or evening. Then you can apply a profit boost and instantly bump up the potential payout. So go safe, go bold, ride with the team you've been following all season. It's your parlay, your style, now with more upside behind it with the college basketball parlay profit boost. Head to FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com. FanDuel, play your game. Philosophically, Croc, when you're looking at draft prospects, and if you were drafting for a football team and you didn't play a lot of man coverage, you're probably not drafting a corner high, because that's the thing that gets the corners drafted high. And if you don't need that, why spend the extra draft picks? Draft a guy in the middle rounds that can play some zone coverage for you, right? Am I crazy?
Well, I think ideally, but again, most zones turn into man at some point. So you have to have that ability. Teams are also, I think it was the 49ers, one of the lower percentage man coverage teams in the NFL. But you got to have that ability. I don't want somebody that can't play man. And I'm a guy, I feel like I could teach you how to play zone, whether you're an off coverage guy or playing at the line of scrimmage.
And looking at Raheem Morris's coverage percentages, very similar to Robert Saleh in the back seven. His front seven was a little bit different, and we'll see how much of that the 49ers adopt. But very similar in the back 7 in coverage percentage wise. You know, the number one coverage being cover 3, but some cover 4 and some other coverages as well. A little some man coverage in there as well. But you know, if you're looking for a 49ers corner, you want someone who can play cover 3 for the most part. And are the corners from Washington that? Because on paper, they look like they would be perfect. They are 6'3", long arms. They're also fast. What did you see from Takario Davis, who was somebody who was been a popular name that folks wanted us to look at, and people see Takario Davis and they see what he did at the combine, and we see a guy who's nearly 6'4". I want to get his measurements correct here. Takario Davis out of Washington was at the University of Arizona prior, 6'3" and 7/8. So essentially 6'4", 194 pounds. It's pretty slim. That was me at 17, 18 years old, Croc. 4.41 in the 40-yard dash with that length. So people are going to see that and they're going to say, hey, there's Reek Woolen right there. Let's get one of those for the San Francisco 49ers. I want to talk about his teammate, Ephesians Prysock. Phenomenal name. Let's start with Takario Davis out of Washington.
All right, so I can really tackle both of these guys because I'm seeing certain similarities. But there is a guy that as soon as I put the film on, I saw it. Former 49er. Can you guess?
I mean, this has to be Akello Witherspoon.
This is Akello Witherspoon.
Okay.
Now, Akello, I was high on Akello Witherspoon coming out of college, right? So I am talking about these guys as a prospect. And I know Akello didn't have this great, luxurious career with the 49ers, but he's going into his 9th season still in the NFL. So you're a third-round pick going into your 9th year.
We're getting paychecks.
You're doing something right.
Yeah.
All right. So Akello Witherspoon wasn't a bad pick. He was serviceable and he started a good amount of games and gave up some stuff. And he had some issues with, hey, we just need you to find the ball a little more consistently. I think most 49er fans would say that. Hey, get his head around. Needs to get his head around. But when I watch these guys, it reminded me of Akello Witherspoon, and that is not a negative. At Colorado, it was Spoon and Awuzie, and I thought those guys were terrific. And Spoon was this long guy. He had terrific feet. He had change of direction, but you know he was long-legged. And when I watch these guys, I see good feet, change of direction, but long-legged. So some things are going to be a little bit more difficult to turn and kind of run with a guy, or it may not look as smooth as maybe a guy that's, 5'11" to 6'1", but everything about them like scream. And the more I watched it, I kept watching it. I'm like, that's Witherspoon at Colorado. And I thought Witherspoon was a terrific prospect. Matter of fact, at one point during the draft, I think it was the 2nd round, I had tweeted out because the 49ers, before they traded one of their thirds, which ended up being Alvin Kamara.
Yes.
But yeah, so before they did that, I was like, okay, 49ers got 2 picks back-to-back to start the third round. Akello Witherspoon, Juju Smith-Schuster. That's who I wanted, right, at that time. And
USC.
They drafted you're right. But they drafted Akello Witherspoon. And I really liked his film. Now, you talked about some of the measurements of those guys. This is Witherspoon coming out of Colorado, 6'3", 198 pounds. And he was a really long, lean-looking guy, but 6'3", 198, 33-inch arm length, so really long arms, 4.45 40-yard dash at the combine, 40 and a half inch vertical jump, 10.7 broad jump, 6.93 3-cone. I mean, Witherspoon went and really tore up the combine. And I felt like we saw that ability at different times, just not as consistently enough as you would like for, a cornerback in the NFL. So a lot of good traits, and I see a lot of similarities with those guys. So however you guys go back and just watch Colorado, Akello Witherspoon, and you're going to be like, wow, this is exactly who these two guys are.
I'm looking
and
at
that is not a bad thing.
I'm looking at the spider graph for Akello Witherspoon and his combine workouts at mockdraftable.com. And it was pretty ridiculous. And you just laid it all out there. 6'3", 198, 4.45, 40, great 3-cone for a long-legged player, 40 and a half inch vertical. And his closest player comps are really interesting, Croc. Amongst his top 10 comps are Christian Gonzalez, Richard Sherman, Patrick Surtain, and Ephesians Prysock, 2026 Washington corner. So the other corner that you're talking about from Washington as well was very similar as far as height, weight, speed, which is kind of fascinating. You know what? You know who else? Charles Demings, who's a player we were going to talk about from Stephen F. Austin, is on here as one of the closest comps athletically as well. He's not as tall. He doesn't have that 6'3" frame, but and so looking at Prysock's measurables, I clicked on him. His second most similar is Takario Davis. So, and actually, let me click on Takario Davis and see if it takes me back. Some of the similar names, but yeah, I mean, very close. I think Takario Davis just didn't have he didn't run the agility, so that's why he's not.
We're not seeing that a lot. Yeah, we're not seeing that a lot anymore.
Yeah.
And to go on there and see Akello Witherspoon test in everything: 3-cone, short shuttle, broad jump, vertical jump, 40-yard dash. It's just something you don't see as much anymore. One thing about Takario Davis, I felt like there was too many times he would get rocked back onto his heels. And as a cornerback, especially at the line of scrimmage or in coverage, at no point do you want to be on your heels. Even in my back pedal, I don't want my heels to touch the ground. My coaches call that a heel striker. So you don't want to be a heel striker because at no point can you break off of your heel. You're going to have to take another step or so just to get you in position to be able to break. So at the line of scrimmage, he's one where he'll get a little flat-footed and sometimes shoot the wrong hand, and then he ends up locking his hip. So that's something you don't want to do as well, especially for a taller, longer guy who is going to potentially take a little bit longer to kind of get back up to speed if a guy just takes off on you and you lock that hip. So there's some technical things that Takario Davis can work on, but definitely things that he can clean up. What you can't coach is that 6'3" frame, 194 pounds, ran a 4.41, right? Like those aren't things that you can teach. So now it's on the coach to get them and just say, hey, we want you to be a little bit more consistent with your technique so we can get better results at the NFL level where teams are going to be far more precise.
A few more notes on Takario Davis, his teammate Ephesians Prysock, and Cal cornerback Hezekiah Masses, who are the best fits for the San Francisco 49ers at cornerback in the 2026 NFL Draft. Next. This episode of Locked On 49ers is brought to you by Robinhood Prediction Markets. What if sports were traded like markets? Now you can put your sports IQ to work in real time with Robinhood Prediction Markets. It's not you against the house. It's you participating in a live market. You can buy or sell your positions live all game long. Use your sports knowledge in moments that matter. Robinhood Predictions Markets, it changes the game because it's people moving the action. So when momentum shifts, you can move with it. You always knew the game, right? But never had a dynamic way to apply that knowledge. Now you can actually take part live in a market powered by people. You're no longer just a spectator. Play by play, you decide. Trade every play with Robinhood, now available across the U.S. Download the Robinhood app now to begin. Futures and cleared swaps trading involves significant risk and is not appropriate for everyone. Event contracts are offered by Robinhood Derivatives, LLC, a registered futures commission merchant and swap firm. I got to be perfectly honest. I really enjoyed being able to see both from last year, seeing Arizona tape of Takario Davis in Washington and seeing a lot of cover 3 reps and seeing him do that. And it was like, this looks like, at the beginning, I was like, oh, this is great. This is Richard Sherman from 2012, right? This is cover 3 all day long. There's a safety in the middle of the football field. There's a 6'3" corner playing cover 3. And then I started watching. The more I'm watching, it's like, he's athletic. And it's like, he's covering grass. It's like, break on a ball and make a play. And it's like, okay, come up and make a play against the run. And he runs and kind of swings one of those skinny arms out. Doesn't come close to stopping the corner or stopping the runner. And the more I watched him, I was like, I don't like him at all. That was my end result for Takario Davis. He couldn't make a tackle. He never closed on the football in the passing game. Maybe it was the length and it was just like getting that motor back going the other way. He covered a lot of grass. He had length and he had range in coverage. I just didn't see enough plays made And I came away thinking, man, I'm just not sold on this guy. And I feel like I liked his teammate Prysock better, but it was partially because Prysock was in the action a little bit more because they had him actually playing some nickel and playing inside a little bit more. So you just got to see him in the action more. So maybe that's why I liked Prysock a little bit better. But similar frame, similar build, very similar speed actually as well. I think I'm out on Takario Davis. I got to admit, Croc. What did you see from his teammate Ephesians Prysock?
Yeah, I do believe that Akello Witherspoon, who I compare these guys to, and they're kind of identical to him in the sense of height, weight, speed, all that type of stuff. I thought Spoon was a better prospect, though, cornerback. I just thought he was just a little stickier, challenged himself more. It could be the defense that he was asked to play. I thought that Colorado played a lot more. Hey, press man, we're going to get in guys' face, and you could just see those movements.
And I think,
but I didn't see that a whole lot from Davis.
Sorry, you disappeared for a second, so I thought you were frozen. Didn't mean to interrupt you there.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But basically, I'm looking for the comments in the chat. Some folks talking about Witherspoon. His heart is what people are calling out, and I don't necessarily want to call out a guy's heart, but I think I saw some of that with Takario Davis. Like when you're built that spindly, you're probably not. I mean, 6'4", 190. What was it for Takario Davis? 6'4", 194. That's very slim, and you didn't see much physicality in the run game. And so I think that's probably part of what dogged Witherspoon throughout his career is a lack of physicality. And I think I saw some of that from Takario Davis. So maybe it was my Witherspoon scars deep down that made me feel like I was kind of out on Takario Davis.
Well, I thought his teammate was just a little bit more consistent with technique, but aside from that, everything looked pretty much the same.
The same, like these guys are so similar. It's pretty wild that they end up on the
very
same
similar
defense together. And
Ephesians, you typically don't see that. Like I talked about Akello Witherspoon and Chidobe Awuzie when they were at Colorado. They were different corners. And you see that a lot where there's one corner who, you would like to have guys, I guess, that are the same, but, playing and doing things at a very high level. But those guys were like oddly similar.
6'3" 3/8" for Prysock. So half inch shorter than his teammate, 2 pounds heavier, 196 pounds. He ran a 4.45 versus a 4.41 that Takario Davis ran. Better 10-yard split, though, for Ephesians Prysock. Prysock did the vertical, which Davis did not. 39-inch vertical for Ephesians Prysock. 10-4 broad jump, and not surprising that the 6'3", 6'4 corners weren't running the agility. So no agilities for Prysock. Very similar prospects. Pretty fascinating. I think I like Prysock more. Got to be honest.
Yeah, but it seems like Takario Davis is the one that's getting a little bit more hype.
Get more love. He's a little bit taller. He ran a little bit better 40, so he's got the closer to the Tariq Woolen comp, which is what everyone's throwing out there for Takario Davis. Let's go to Cal. Hezekiah Masses. Very narrow cornerback. I don't want to color what you're going to talk about. I'll give my thoughts after your thoughts, Croc. What did you see when you put on the tape of Cal's Hezekiah Masses?
All right, here we go. Very good patience, good technique at the line of scrimmage. Again, stay patient while also staying really square and consistently getting hands on receivers. First question I put on here: how much does he want to tackle? So I put that. All right, and then get back to some of my notes. Nice half man run, staying over the top of the vertical, allowing himself to. Oh, excuse me. Let me not get to that yet. Staying over the top of the vertical. So again, he was a guy who would play off coverage. He would play man coverage, but he also would play press man where he's getting his hands on guys, and then he would press bail. And I thought when he was press bailing, he still did a really good job of staying on top of guys, all right, not letting them outrun him. So I'm like, okay, this is a guy that can run, but also challenging himself to break up deep comebacks as well from a press bail. So you started doing those things. I'm getting, kind of Emmanuel Mosley vibes. All right. So we're going full circle here with the 49ers former defensive backs. Again, I talked about it. I said, how much does he want to tackle? I put want in capitals. in all caps. And then a couple notes later, he allows himself to stay blocked. So it's like, hey, I don't really want to get into action all that much. So I'm going to stay blocked instead of really disengaging from this receiver and kind of remove myself from any type of like real run support if there's a blocker in front of me. So that was one thing I noticed. Plays very well in both man and zone. And I thought he had really good zone eyes. Can press Bell from any look. And then one of my last notes, lacks physicality. But I thought that his feet were terrific. I thought that the change of direction, awesome. Patience, again, good. Hands-on at the line of scrimmage. So he is truly a coverage guy. I did hear a coach once say, hey, I pay you to cover, not to tackle. But in today's day, I want to see a little bit. I want to see at least some willingness. Like, even I keep going back to Witherspoon, or we'll go Emmanuel Mosley. There was a willingness to tackle. Now, was Spoon the best tackler? No. And I thought Mosley was a better tackler. But at least Spoon was like, I'm going to throw my body around. I'm going to be willing to. I remember one time he stuffed Adrian Peterson in the hole. So he was a little bit more willing. I didn't see that from Masses. Like, I didn't see a want to at all. So that's a tough thing because he's not the biggest guy. A very slight build. I think I saw that he weighed in at like 170 something pounds. So is that a guy that you could put in the nickel? Because I think he has all the traits to be able to play nickel, aside from, hey, if you're in the nickel, they're going to ask you to run fit. That was an issue with Samuel Womack when he was on the Niners. All right, you're in the nickel. You got to run fit up. Can't quite do it, so we're going to pull you out of here. I just have to see Masses want to tackle more. Maybe there's more film that I need to see where I will see it consistently, but I watched a few games, and at no point did I see somebody that truly wanted to get involved. Matter of fact, a guy would be running straight through the hole, and he'd see it, and he would kind of act like I'm coming over here. His teammate would make the tackle. Then he'd do that thing where, let me stop short of the guy getting tackled. And a lot of defenders, what you see at the NFL level, college level, guys are flying in and giving that guy that's getting tackled a little extra more, right? I didn't see that from him.
So Hezekiah Masses came over from Florida International. So FIU for 3 years, and then finished his senior season at Cal and had a ton of production, and folks tried him, and he took the ball away. He had 5 picks as a corner in 2025 for Cal. 6'1" even, 179 pounds, as you mentioned, Croc. 4.46 in the 40-yard dash. No agilities, but I think he should have done the agilities. So I think he'd done really well, and I love the way he was able to mirror receivers. He was able to stay patient, stay balanced, and the way he mirrored receivers, I loved. I think it was almost, and I was going to say some of the similar things you were about his physicality and being able to tackle. I think it's play strength, which is the big problem. Because I even saw it when he's in press coverage, and he'd put his hands on a receiver, and the receiver didn't care. The receiver's like, there's a gnat on me right now, and just keep running, right? So he just lacked strength. It's 179 pounds. And I think you saw that tackling as well, where he's like, he knew he's not imposing. He would hit guys, bounce off him, and just, he was not a good tackler. So I think he kind of gave up tackling because he knew he wasn't good at it. He's probably going to end up getting himself hurt, which is the big difference between, because body type wise, somewhat similar athletically to Emmanuel Mosley, as you mentioned, but Mosley was physical. That was one of the things that really stood out. I was like, who is this guy? Mosley weighs nothing, and he's not afraid to hit guys at all, which is probably why he ended up getting hurt all the time, because he's 179 pounds and he's hitting dudes. Masses is not trying to hit dudes, and really just there's a lack of play strength, which is obviously the number one big negative for me with Hezekiah Masses. But he can mirror guys and he can cover.
I'd say, again, if I'm just paying my guys to cover, I liked him the most from just a pure coverage standpoint, zones, press bail, the way he was able to react, stay on top of defenders, what it looked like, getting hands on at the line of scrimmage. I liked him the most out of all of these guys that we watched today. Pure coverage. Again, you got to have the physicality has to come. It just has to. But the coverage skills, I thought he was, from what I'm looking for out of my corners, thought he was the best. Emmanuel Mosley. I mean, that's what it looked like.
Did you see a guy that you would draft out of any of these in the second round, pick 58?
No. I think Johnson has more of the traits that would make me intrigued to draft him there.
Yeah.
But Masses, if he was more physical, he would be a guy that I would be more intrigued. If you told me he was 193 instead of 179, and then he played to just having that added weight and was stronger, I would say, oh, this is a guy I really like.
Well, you know who you're going to like, Croc, is Charles Demings, because that's exactly what he is. So when you get to the Stephen F. Austin tape, which is hard to find, I was watching more one-on-ones. I went in a deep dive of one-on-ones, and I got mesmerized by watching one-on-ones at the Senior Bowl today. So that was a lot of fun. Masses was involved. Charles Demings was involved. And Masses is going to be there in the 4th round, I think, as is Davis and Prysock. So that'll be the conversation. I don't know if the 49ers are going to go second-round corner, probably where you would have to take Chris Johnson. I think there's a player I'm going to like more at a more need position, a more impactful position, especially if the 49ers are going to run a lot of zone. I just don't know if you need to. We just saw it with Renardo Green. You draft the man corner because you like the traits, and then you get disappointed in what he looks like in your scheme, right? Because that's why you draft the second-round guys, because he's good in man coverage. So I think it's a fourth round position at corner, to be honest with you, Croc. Brought in Nate Hobbs in the short term. And I think we could talk about any of those other players in the 4th round. Maybe, who knows, maybe Chris Johnson falls. Crazy things happen in the NFL draft, and I'd be all about that in the 4th round. But otherwise, I think might be looking in other directions right now. Let us know if there's any corners you want us to watch, any other positions at all to break down before we get to the NFL draft. We're going to try to build our little big board of our favorite players in different rounds. Got to close the gap on that 3rd round, Croc, right? Like,
yeah.
Too many prospects that are in that 3rd round range, and the Niners having that 3rd round pick. Like, man, yeah, the 4th round.
Well, that's a good thing, because some of those guys got to fall to the 4th round, where the 49ers have a ton of picks,
or at least range to move up a little bit. You know, you go from 127 to 105 and get a guy, right? I think that's certainly a possibility for the San Francisco 49ers. Ian in the chat says tight ends. There's a billion tight ends out there, and there's a lot of good ones that are going to be there. I think in that 4th round range, I think that is where the 49ers are for sure going to strike at least once with those 4th round picks, is a tight end. So let's watch some tight ends. We're going to watch more edge rushers, more wide receivers, get you ready for the 2026 NFL draft. Thanks everybody for tuning in and making us your first listen. Make sure you're subbed on YouTube and everywhere you get your podcast. Croc and I back Sunday night, if you're watching on YouTube, right here, Locked On 49ers.